I am Caro, and this is a story about CUAV engaging in people before funding advocacy. So basically, educating government funders on how to best listen to communities and invest in community-based strategies that are effective and also that respond to the diverse needs of the most vulnerable populations experiencing violence. So CUAV, in this story, I'm going to highlight how CUAV engaged in this advocacy and government education with two entities. One at the local level in the city and county of San Francisco, and one at the state level in California with the Department of Justice and the basically office within that department that provides funding, or at least provided when I was there, funding to CUAV for domestic violence services. So both of these contracts were monies for domestic violence services, both around crisis support and kind of like mid-level support. So not really long-term support or change. So they had similar kind of goals, which is why I think they're interesting case examples to share in terms of how to put funding that centers people's needs before kind of like the opposite, which is funding based services, which I think we want to avoid. So in CUAV's redevelopment that started around 2008, 2009, we realized that we needed to not only shift our strategies and the way we did our work, but also bring in new revenue that would fund the new work and engage in kind of like long-term shift with our government partners around how to best invest in our communities. With both of the local and state grant managers and grantors, we used the same two strategies. One was leveraging our long-term relationships with these funders so that they knew that we were trustworthy, that we would that we had been fulfilling our contract, and that the changes that we were requesting were based not on wanting to do less work or work outside of their requirements, but that we wanted to prioritize what the community needed. And the other strategy we engaged in is investing in kind of like a good amount of meetings and educational meetings on sharing resources, data, right? So truly investing in that education with these two government entities. Now, we had different results with each one. At the local level, we unfortunately had to decide to not take that funding anymore because they stayed rigid and did not want to change the requirements or even adjust them a tiny bit so that our work could fit within their scope. And that was unfortunate, but at the same time, it helped us practice accountability to our survivors rather than accountability to funders. In terms of the state grant, the good news is that we were able to make the two shifts that we were advocating for. We advocated for this shift, I think, for over a year. And the two shifts were related to one, a requirement of a 24-hour hotline, and basically making it a criteria to even qualify for the contract, which was a really good multi-year contract. And so they did take that out and just left it as an optional service provision for domestic violence programs. And that was really great because truthfully, the survivors that we had been engaging with, including the former clients that we had interviewed, the organizations, the partner organizations that we surveyed, all agreed that that was not kind of like the primary service that they felt made a big difference in their transformation of their lives. And the other piece that they were open to shifting, which the county San Francisco grant was not open to do, was redefining what housing aid in case of an emergency looked like, especially because they did not provide us enough funding to actually house somebody for more than a night or two. And so those were really big successes that I think show us that if we engage in advocacy that is people-centered around government funders, we can make shifts on what they consider good investments.